morning, guys. It's Brian, Cliffside Outfitters. Glad to have you back with us. Still working on the Hydro Sport, trying to push through. In the previous video, we got one of the stringers in, and I went ahead and put the other stringer in, man, it's starting to get junky out here. I'm limited on space. We've got stuff going on everywhere. But before I stop to clean up, I want to try to get the first layer of the transom. The way this transom is made in this boat, you've got a large piece, and then you got the knees, and then you got a smaller piece in between. So we're going to have to put it in layers, because I don't know the exact dimension of how the knees are going to come back. But at any rate, let me show you what we've got going on. So you can see we've got our stringers in, all except for the center one, and we'll come back to it. Right now we're working on the transom, and I had to try to figure out how to press this transom once I put it together. So you can see I've got a piece of Coosa here, and it's cut, and it's tapered out. It's wider at the bottom than it is the top, just the way the boat's made. And so I've got this big piece of wood on the back. I've had it on there for the duration of having the cap off, because I wanted to make sure that the transom didn't start bowing out. So we've held it firm, and we're going to utilize that piece of wood to clamp. You can see that we've got a clamp right here, and we've got a clamp right here. We've got a 2x on the top that's going to pinch all this top together. Now what we're going to do, I'm going to lay a piece of glass between the transom and this first piece of Coosa, and that's going to help strengthen the transom up. It'll give the Coosa something to glue to, bite to, a fresh finish. So we're gonna laminate a piece of glass in between these two, and then we'll put the Coosa on, and then we'll press everything. And I didn't have because my stringers are new, I didn't want to put a lot of pressure on them. So I've had to make this apparatus to try to press the bottom part of the transom in when we get it in place. So what I did, I just made a frame, and I screwed it to the center transom, because we're going to tear it out anyway. And then I've got me two pieces of wood that comes down, lays on top of the other stringers, not attached, because like I said, I don't want to mess with them. They hadn't been in all that long. And then I just drilled a couple holes through this piece of wood that's attached to the other two pieces. And I put a big bolt in there on both sides. And what that'll allow me to do, this nut, and we got a washer, but if we start turning this, backing it off, then it's going to make the bolt, the stud, come out and push against this piece of wood that we've got at the bottom, and that's going to push everything in good and tight. And we sort of had to cobble that together, because that's the only, I don't have any clamps that's going to, you know, if I'd done this for a living, I'm sure I'd have some great big clamps, but I don't have any, so we've had to make our own system for clamping it up. So let me get all this tore back apart, and we'll start laying some glass. Alright guys, so a little bit earlier, I took everything apart, put my knees in here, and I marked on this piece of Coosa, this first piece, and I marked on the floor here. Of course I sanded some of that off, but we'll remark it. But I marked where my next piece of Coosa needs to go on the transom. And so I've got it marked. I went back and I cleaned up over here the best I could. I'm down to the actual layup on the hull here and over here. There's some tab in here that'll come out when we take this out, but I've got it you know, sanded back to where I can lay more glass. I went along the bottom. I don't know that this is necessary, but I went across the bottom of this piece of glass that's behind this. It's almost like a fillet at that point, but it's actually a piece of glass that runs in behind this. You see me put that in earlier. But we went along the front edge and we knocked the edge down. There's going to be some steps back here. We'll probably try to lay chop strand over that and clean it up before we paint or epoxy or whatever we decide to do back here. But at any rate, I've eased the edge on that. I've done all my sanding, and very important, I went back and I rounded the corners of this Cusa board so that my fiberglass would lay over it. So the next thing that we need to do, we've got everything sanded. I want to try to take some acetone and try to clean some of this up so that we can get it prepped for the next section. Get it right down. So we've got our peanut butter mixed up, and that's a pretty thick. I want it thick because we're putting it on the vertical now. If it ain't thick and it starts running down, we're gonna have a mess. Seen one of the guys on YouTube doing this deal right here. I tried it earlier and it works out great. Use a decent quality bag. I mean, you could try it with a something else, but that'd make me a little nervous. But we're gonna put our peanut butter in the bag. It's good and thick. So once we get it in the bag, we'll get rid of this. Close it up or not, it don't really matter. You're going to do it like a pastry bag. I'm going to try to push all that down into the corner so that it'll stay neat. Alright, now I'll close it up. After we got a pastry bag here with the cow seal in it. Alright, and we're going to take, don't cut this hole too big. You can go over it twice. If you cut it too big, you're sort of defeating the purpose. I'm cutting, I don't know, that's like a 3/8 hole. So let's get it over here and I'll show you what we're going to do with it. Start down here in the bottom, and I'm just going to squeeze the bag. Let it come out just like that. And if we don't have enough, we'll go back over it. So just like that, we got that material in there. And then I'm going to take a spoon, just a plastic spoon. I like the clear ones so I can see through them, sort of see what I'm doing, don't get my own way. And I'm going to use that and pull that material up through there just like that. I'm putting a pretty good size bead in here because I don't want to, it may be too much. Y'all gotta leave in the comment, let me know. I don't know. So but I feel like that we need to have a pretty good size bead to fill this in, because if we don't, then the glass is going to have a it's harder transition, and that's not good. From what I understand, that's not good. So if I have any left over, I can always just flop it down here in the bottom, right? So there you go. Alright, we got our mat here. I'm going to mix up a pretty good sized batch of resin. I'm going to try something. I seen this on the internet. So when I put that last piece of glass down, it took a lot more material to wet it out than I actually thought it was going to take. I was actually a little bit surprised. So what I'm going to do, and we rolled and rolled and rolled and rolled it. This is 1708. I've heard that for some reason it's got white spots. Well, we didn't have many and they wasn't very big. So I think we got a real good lamination. But with that being said, I'm going to try to put, and this may be a mistake because I'm going to have to transfer this from here to there, but I'm going to try to partially wet this out here and see if I can't get a jump on the amount of fin rolling and stuff that I have to do over there. So we'll see if it works. It may or may not work, but we're going to give it a try and see how it goes. I'm going to just use these brushes. Man, you can buy a whole big box of these, 36 in a box, for, I mean, they're like 35, 40 cents a piece. So the reason I'm not using a roller, this chop strand, the way it's, the way the fiber is in it, seems like the more I roll it, the more I lift the nap, if you will, if that's what you want to call it. So. Well, I guess probably the right roller, if I had the right roller, it probably wouldn't do that. I don't think it matters. I think you just got to get it on there. And whatever's easier for you to work with, that's what you ought to use. I'm just guessing as it goes, guys. If y'all see something I'm doing wrong, let me know. I'm sure there's a lot of things I could do easier, but that's just inexperience. So now I'm going to take the rest of this resin, what I got left in this cup, and I'm going to paint that Coosa. I'm going to put it on there. And the reason I'm going to do that, that Coosa board, I don't think it absorbs much, but if it does absorb some, I'm not going to be dry. I'm going to get it on there wet. It's going to get stuck. So let me get over here and get that painted. All right, let's see what happens. Here goes the show. All right. So it seems to be holding its integrity. We're going to make it quick. There we go. Oh yeah, that worked. Now, we got to get it down here, and it's got to go out. Let's see here. Got to get it out past that other piece. Lift it up here. Fold it up. You gotta tell I don't have a clue about what I'm doing. Do what you gotta do, man. Just do what you gotta do. Think about this cloth. I guess it's all like this, but 1708, it's got a pattern to it. It's pretty strong up and down this way with the threads, with the fiber. It's not very strong. Now, if you go pulling it this way, it'll tear apart. So I've got that up. My transom's high on the back. I'm going to bring it down when we get to that point. When we're getting ready to put the cap on, there's going to be some grinding. Of course, we're going to seal it, and I think I call it flaring or fairing. Get that all nice and smooth. It takes this stuff a few minutes before it actually starts wetting out. So while we're waiting on that, I'm going to grab some more glass and mix a little more. You can see these are still dry. I've got to get all that wet, but we'll get it. Got this brush so I can mop up what a spill. So bring it over here, and I'm using my hands. I know it'd probably be better if I got better with the tools, but I'm using my hands. Pull that right up there, real nice. Boy, that's a fine transition right there. I am loving that. I am loving that. Little bow hickey right there, I won't have it. It's gonna be straight. It ain't gonna. I could probably wet this whole thing out. It gets real heavy. The cloth has directional strength, and I was afraid if I wet the whole thing out, I wouldn't be able to hold on to it. It'd fall apart before I got it over here. So what we're wetting out do right there, don't we? Now we're just gonna take our time and see that air coming out of it. Not too much pressure. I think the resin gets bubbles in it too when you're mixing it. What do they call this? I think they call this a bubble buster. I'm pulling it up from the bottom. Seems like a technique that's working for me. But when I get close to the top, I just sort of hold it there a minute, and you can see all the bubbles come up, and then they bust and dissipate, and then the resin runs back down. That glass, you can just see where this has been wet longer, it just has a different color. And I'm hoping that time will fix that. A little bit dry over here. Alright, so I took my wooden beam off the back while I was doing this work so I wouldn't be up against it. But I'm going to put it back on now. And we'll, like I said, I want to make sure that everything stays perfectly straight. Okay. We're looking pretty good here. I am pleased with that. I've still got my marks on the top. I can see where the kusa goes, and I've got my kusa. We're gonna put it on here, and we're gonna laminate it. And it's going to be there forever. I'm going to push that down a little bit because remember that peanut butter that I had underneath there? If I don't squeeze it out, you learn as you go. By the time I figure out how to do this, I'm going to have it done probably. But I think that's maybe the value in some of the video that we're doing. You know, chances are this will be the only time that I ever do this. Unless some of my friends need help, but Probably gonna be the only time that I do this. But the value in the video is not that I'm perfect and I know how to do it and this is the right way and there ain't no other way to do it. The value in the video is you get to see what I'm doing and you get to analyze what I should do. Right? Alright, so we got our top clamps on. We got our board here. And I don't have any kind of clamp. I should have learned earlier about these. I could use squeeze clamp. I don't have a squeeze clamp. We're going to have to fight this thing. Tell you what I can do. I am going to take and find something sacrificial. I'm going to take a nice clean sacrificial piece of wood and lay it right here like this. Now, we're going to take this and we're going to place it right here. This is going to help me press the bottom in just like we did the top. If I'm real careful. I'm real careful. Let me see if I messed that up. I'm going to mess up my glass. Started to. I want it flat. Some of you guys are probably laughing at me. Ain't that funny? Another piece of wood. And we fight this down on here. Like that. I need something to hold that up. Or 9 hands. We got our little shim. We'll pull this out in a minute. We're going to hold that clamp up so it ain't touching. I don't want to glue it to the boat. And we got our wood back here. Let's see, we need to get another piece of wood. There. That's bad boy. Squeeze on it. Whew. Alright. We'll take that out. Got us another clamp here. We'll bring it right down here. Put our shim in there so we don't stick on the wood out here. Alright guys, well, I lost you for a minute. Battery died on the camera. I didn't realize it. I was just talking away, looked up, and there you was, gone. But anyway, we got a small charge on it, and I wanted to show you what we had. I think you just about got the idea of what we were trying to do. We were clamping, lifting that up, make sure it stayed off the bottom, clamping, putting plastic where we may have some overruns so that we don't end up with something that we don't want glued to the boat, So we've got the second section of the transom laid up. We're going to call it a night. And we'll get back at it tomorrow evening in the next video. Tomorrow we hope to get the knees positioned. I've got to pick up some stainless steel screws. I actually want to put some fasteners in the knees, but we'll grind them down. We'll do what we talked about earlier in this video. We'll taper everything off and get it to fit right. We'll get the knees in place and get them laminated and screwed into this part of the transom. Of course, before we place the knees, we've got to coat this, and I'm trying to decide. So the knees go up beside. You've got that last piece of transom I put in. The knees go up beside it. So I'm trying to decide exactly what I want to do there. I'm going to cover that Coosa. I think what's going to happen, you know, the idea behind the fillet or the fillet, however you want to pronounce it, is to keep the fiberglass from making sharp bends. It don't like it. But where that piece comes back and you got your knee that comes up to the side of it, that's a tight fit. It's going to bend right there, and it's just going to have to, because I'm gonna laminate glass on that piece. Unless I change my mind, I'm gonna laminate glass on that piece, and then I'm gonna put the knees in, and I'm gonna screw the knees in place with stainless steel screws, and then we'll come back and we'll start tabbing the knees into the back of the boat, and we'll tab the knees into the transom. Then we'll probably cover the knees with another sheet of glass, and then we're going to decide if our transom's thick enough. This is 1.5 inches of Cusa board. We've got 3 layers of glass plus the glass that's on the back of the boat. So we're gonna measure and see. I'm limited. You could just say, well, just throw another piece of glass on there, but I'm limited because the splash wheel, the space behind the splash wheel in my boat, there's only so much width. So we're going to look at it, and we'll decide what we're going to do, figure out how we're going to lay the glass and get the knees in the next video. So I appreciate you hanging out with us. Until next time, this is Brian, Cliffside Outfitters. Y'all have a good day.